Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Pinkerton. I'm the Communications Director for INDOT's Northwest District. We are glad that you are here today. We are going to hear from Governor Mike Pence, and we also have INDOT Commissioner Carl Browning, who's here in town today. And they're going to talk about the situation that Northwest Indiana has experienced with this winter and the potholes and basically our efforts as a state to deal with those. So without any further ado, Governor Mike Pence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jim Pinkerton. I just appreciate very much your presence here. Jim Rosine, the sub-district manager. It is good to be at the INDOT Gary sub-district, and we are just grateful for the tremendous efforts of the men and women of this sub-district during what has been one of the most brutal winter seasons in recent memory in the Hoosier State. I'm grateful to be joined by people that have been making it happen up here and working in most cases around the clock to make sure our roads are passable and safe in this area. And I want to commend 52 men and women, 6 managers, 7 in the garage that make the INDOT Gary sub-district such an exceptional organization. Thank you for your efforts. I'm here to make an announcement specific to road repair, but let me, in the presence of so many individuals that have been working so tirelessly on behalf of our communities and our families, let me at least begin by commending the men and women of the Indiana Department of Transportation in this sub-district. I have lived all of my life in the state of Indiana, and I cannot remember a winter this bad since 1978. And so we are in the midst at least of a generational winter season, and the efforts of the men and women of the Indiana Department of Transportation in northwestern Indiana as well as all across the state of Indiana are to be commended. Now, I'm here to talk about potholes, and specifically the fact that whether you call them potholes or you call them chuck holes, they range from a headache to a nuisance, to in some cases an outright obstruction to economic commerce. And the state of Indiana this week is announcing a strategic blitz to address what we already believe will be a record or near record number of potholes on state roads and highways across the state of Indiana. This is a result of a combination of heavy precipitation and snow. It's a result of extremely low temperatures and then the repeated freeze-thaw cycle, which has worked such a hardship on our communities, but the aftermath of which will result in significant and has resulted in significant impacts on our roadways. These conditions have taken a toll on the roads so far. This year, the state of Indiana, in this fiscal year alone, has already spent $2.9 million repairing potholes on our state roads and highways. We've expended 81,000 employee man-hours, and we've used up to this point 6,900 tons of material in this fiscal year alone. Just in the last 30 days in the Gary sub-district, we have used 300 tons of cold mix to repair potholes. And so let me begin by saying that the effort of potholes does not begin today. It simply continues today. And this week we announced to redouble our efforts to improve our thoroughfares and repair the potholes and chuck holes that are the aftermath of this very brutal winter season. That being said, let me announce today that earlier this month I asked the Indiana Department of Transportation to develop a plan for a strategic blitz to repair damaged pavement. And in connection with that, we have already deployed additional resources, supplemental crews, And INDOT personnel in northwestern Indiana and all over the state of Indiana are already working additional hours and shifts to address this. For lack of a better term, we call this a pothole surge. This surge will be targeted. We will run alternating 12-hour shifts on weekdays and weekends to repair as many potholes as quickly as possible. Our crews will be working 24-hour shifts in many areas around the state, depending on the availability of light packages. Not every single one of our pothole crews have lighting available, but those that do will be out. And let me say, the willingness of our INDOT team to step into this fight in the battle against potholes is very moving to me, because, for instance, just in this sub-district alone, no complete crews have had a day off since Christmas. So, but we're asking the INDOT team to do what they do so well, and that is step up, give the extra measure, and give our state a head start on confronting this challenge of potholes around the state. In addition to supplemental crews, additional hours, additional resources, and 12-hour shifts, we are also, through the Indiana Department of Transportation, working with asphalt plants across the region and across the state of Indiana to encourage them to fire up the plants that typically don't fire up till a little bit later in the year, to begin to make available what is known as a hot mix. It's a liquid asphalt emulsion that is a more permanent fix to potholes. But in the meantime, we will continue to use what is known as a cold mix asphalt, and the repairs that have been underway will continue to be underway. But there is an effort working with our local communities and partners and working with asphalt plants around the region and around the state to make the liquid asphalt emulsion more available and more possible. You know, research estimates that every dollar investment in pavement preservation saves taxpayers $6 to $14 in future maintenance and construction costs. In the past several years, INDOT has expanded its pavement preservation program to improve pavement friction and seal cracks before potholes form. But this winter obviously speaks for itself, and as we here in the Hoosier State, where we like to call ourselves the crossroads of America, we have 30,000 lane miles statewide to maintain, and I think it's altogether appropriate for the state of Indiana to deploy the personnel and the resources with this strategic blitz to take care of what we got and to repair our state roads and highways from the effects of this winter season. Now, we know there's more snow on the way, and so Hoosiers should know that this work will be dependent on weather. The priority will continue to be keeping the roads open and passable and plowed, but to the extent that we have sunshine like we do today, or even just it's not snowing, our crews are now, and in increasing measure will continue to be, tackling the challenge of potholes. Let me make 4 specific asks of the public in support of our strategic blitz on potholes. Number 1, with this pothole surge, there's going to be more pothole crews out on the roads, and so we ask Hoosier motorists and those traveling in our state to be mindful of the safety of our pothole crews that are going to be out in all different parts of roadways, all different times of the day and night. And we ask you to be mindful, as we always do, of construction work on the roads, but be aware that this effort is going to be underway, and they should be mindful of the safety. Number 2, we ask for your patience with traffic. When we're putting crews into the street, there will on occasion be a slowdown of traffic. Now, I know that INDOT makes every effort to avoid high traffic times for road work, and we'll continue to practice that. But Hoosier motorists need to understand there will from time to time be a requirement of additional patience as we deal with the repairs of our roadways. Thirdly, we're asking for help from every citizen in the state to help us do this pothole blitz in a targeted way by informing us where potholes exist. There are a variety of ways to do that. If you see a pothole, you can report it on Twitter at INDOT potholes. It's a Twitter account with the @ symbol, INDOT potholes. Send it in, and we'll be assembling that information across the state of Indiana and deploying resources and cooperating with local officials as needed to get those potholes repaired as quickly as possible. Hoosiers can also call 1-866-849-1-DOT to report potholes, and you can also go to our website dedicated specifically to this pothole blitz, which is potholes.indot.in.gov. I hope it goes without saying that we obviously discourage motorists from reporting potholes online or by Twitter while they're operating a motor vehicle. But to make a note of where potholes exist, and once you are stopped or out of your vehicle, let us know through these various means where the potholes are, and we'll be providing those resources as quickly as possible. I'm grateful to be joined here today by the Commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation, Carl Browning, and I just want to assure people that even as we have dealt with one of the worst winters in recent memory, the state of Indiana is absolutely determined to deal with the aftermath of this winter and make sure that we continue to have the kind of highways and byways in the Hoosier state that will encourage commerce and promote public safety. So with that, we'd be happy to take some questions, and Mr. Browning is also available for specific questions on the subject of our blitz. Well, let me say we just commended public safety officials, not only the Indiana State Police, but local first responders from all across the region for what was an extraordinary effort with the accident that took place on I-94. Obviously, lives were lost, but I know in my heart that it could have been a lot worse, but for the response that we saw and the collaboration that we saw in public safety agencies, in local governments that got people out of their vehicles, out of harm's way, out of the cold. Not only was it a terrible accident, but also the backup in those extreme cold temperatures put people in harm's way. And today, at another location here in northwestern Indiana, we commended our first responders and all of the agencies that made it possible. I mean, reality is that accidents, particularly during extreme and severe weather accidents, happen. The state of Indiana and the people of Indiana, I think, can be proud of the response that was made in connection with that incident on I-94. And we're just going to continue to do all that we can to make sure our roadways are passable as the snow comes down and the wind and the sleet and the ice forms. But today is really about making sure that once that snow melts off, that we take care of what could well be a record number of potholes around the state of Indiana on our roads. Go. Yeah. Well, we're constantly, particularly when you're going through a season like we've been going through, we're constantly asking the question of how we can improve, how we can make sure that we're properly resourcing various areas. I'm pleased to report to you that that northwestern Indiana has has gotten a significant amount of extra attention because, quite frankly, this is a part of the state that has probably borne some of the worst weather over the course of this winter season. We deal up here with about 1,200 lane miles that this subdistrict has to handle. We have 51 plows that are on the roads at all time that just operate in this subdistrict. But we also moved about 24 trucks into this area, I think 14 from the Fort Wayne district, 10 from the Seymour district, recognizing that northwestern Indiana, with the combination of severe weather and obviously the realities of simply being in an area of lake effect snow, put the heaviest burden on families and communities and businesses here. So we've moved resources into the area, and let me let Carl speak to any other additional focus that we've placed in northwestern Indiana.
So it is important, and one of the things that we really work hard at is we have a Crawfordsville district, which is to the south of here, Fort Wayne to the east of here. When we get these surges here in the Gary area and in Lake County, we bring crews both directions so that we can bring more focus into these areas that are getting that big lake effect snow. So, as the governor said, we have also brought people, trucks, and salt up from the south to supplement the crews here. So we do pay a lot of attention here, and we flux with the weather, and we flux with the weather in the other parts of the state as well.
Good. Yes, please.
I guess the short answer right now is no, but now that you bring it up, I'd be happy to talk to Secretary Schneider and see if we can work that out.
Yeah, please. Well, let me say the pothole surge that we're announcing today is all going to be done within our existing appropriations. In this last budget cycle, we increased available resources in a variety of areas of the Department of Transportation, and we're very confident that we have the resources to be able to provide for this strategic pothole blitz without requesting any supplemental funding from the General Assembly at this time. But I want to say that this is the worst winter season that the Hoosier State has seen in at least a generation. And Northwest Indiana, which is an area of the state that is more accustomed than other areas of the state to high amounts of snow precipitation, has been a focus of attention of our administration. But frankly, there's virtually nowhere in the state of Indiana that's been spared during this season. And so I can tell you that we are meeting our obligations. We are, I think the men and women of the Indiana Department of Transportation, like those that are gathered here, have been working around the clock through these storms to make sure to get our roads open and passable. But we're always going to continue to evaluate whether or not we have the resources and the assets in place to ensure that our roadways and thoroughfares are open and passable and safe. Anyone else?
You know, it's funny. Somebody called me, it's probably been a couple weeks now, somebody called me and said almost exactly what you just said. And I went and looked at the weather map And there was, on this weather map, there was this finger that came down out of Lake Michigan, and it stopped at Gary on the west. So the answer was, their streets were a lot better. They weren't getting the same dump of snow that you were getting here. So I think the learning lesson is not so much, are we doing better or worse? I would tell you we're doing at least as well, but you've got to watch where that snow line is.
And let me close where I began, and that is, while today we're here to announce a strategic blitz, potholes, and to really request the cooperation of our citizens, let me emphasize again, our request is number one, as this strategic pothole blitz takes place, we ask Hoosier motorists on our state roads and highways to please practice safety with regard to our crews. Number two, be patient with any traffic slowdowns that are going to be a result of this pothole surge. Number three, we ask for your full assistance in reporting potholes, beginning with a Twitter account of @INDOT potholes, or our website, or our phone number. And lastly, we ask you to be safe as you report those potholes, and wait until you are in a stationary location or out of your vehicle until you make contact with INDOT. But our message here today is we're going to make resources and personnel available for an around-the-clock response. We're going to work the pothole problem until it's resolved, and we ask for the cooperation and the assistance of our citizens. But I also want to express, as I close, my profound admiration and appreciation for the hard work and sacrifice of the men and women of the Indiana Department of Transportation. Those here at the INDOT Gary Subdistrict have my admiration and appreciation. This has been a very tough winter, but this is a very tough crew, and I'm grateful for their efforts. Thank you all.